right, babes, this week we are doing things a little bit differently here at The Pieces. Today, we're going to be joined by some brilliant voices from the community, Samuel Moir-Smith, Darkwah and Suithink, for an honest, urgent and joyful roundtable conversation. We're gathering at a time when trans rights in the UK are once again under threat following a new ruling that makes biological sex, not gender identity, the defining legal marker of womanhood. It raises questions about safety, identity, visibility, and the right to be oneself. But this isn't just a political conversation, it's a personal one. So today's episode is about stories, not statistics, and it's about what it means for real people and how we can kind of move forward. So expect some love, laughter, rage, and a reminder that even in dark times, our community finds ways to shine. All right, babes, it's Bimini, and we are back with a very special episode of The Pieces today. And I am joined with some brilliant voices from the community. I'm going to go around and get them to introduce themselves. Starting with you, Sue.
Hi, I'm Suithink. I'm a musician, and I love to laugh and giggle.
Gorgeous.
Hi, I'm Darkwah. I am a non-binary, multidisciplinary artist, brand architect, and performer. And I feel like I have to say something too. I like to dance.
I'm Samuel Moir-Smith. I am a trans academic and PhD student specialising in trans health and medicine. Something about me, I love smoking.
You heard it here first. No, I'm very excited for this. So thank you so much for joining me. I feel like when I started this podcast, I really wanted to kind of use it as a space to speak about different experiences. And obviously with what's going on right now, I felt like it's very important to have conversations that maybe other platforms aren't doing, you know? There's no Piers Morgan over here. So there's no I just want to get into that. So obviously right now, I mean, I feel like the pendulum's been swinging that way for a while. Like we've been feeling it, right? But like, I feel like it kind of finally has like hit the head on, like the nail on the head now. How are we all feeling?
I think it's been a heavy couple of weeks. I agree. I feel like for all of us in the trans community, we've seen all of the opposition, especially in turf circles, right? And we've seen that growing over the last few years. And like you say, it's all come to a head. I think maybe there was a sense in all of us that, because people might think that they were just a small section of society and that it wasn't going to come to a head with a Supreme Court decision. And it's just unfortunate that that has become the reality of what it is.
Yeah, I think in terms of how I'm feeling, I think I feel quite tired. I think it's exhausting having to like wake up and feel like, okay, what's the new problem? Yeah. What's the new problem with the way that I exist today? What's the new problem with the community today? What are we having to tackle today? Like, I just feel like all of this trying to define what a woman is so useless when in the process of trying to define what is a living, breathing human being, you're also actively dehumanizing people, actively ostracizing people, actively, effectively wiping them from existence. I'm quite tired, to be perfectly honest. I'm hopeful because, you know, we also get to come together and have these conversations. And we all know that it gets worse before it gets better. So this is, I guess, the opportunity for us all to get up and make it better and demand better. But I'm exhausted, for sure.
It ultimately felt like surprising, but also not. Like I feel like being trans, and especially being in the community, specifically in London, it's felt like it's been coming for a long time. And, you know, there's been like posts about it and people reporting incidents and such and so forth. But I think that now it's happened, everyone, the infographics are now coming out and like the straight people are like reposting the same infographic, which we're grateful for. We love and it's nice to be informed. However, it's not surprising that it's now happening. Like it's like when it got announced, I was like, oh, damn it. And then over the past couple of weeks, I'm like, well, actually nothing's different. I don't feel any different than I already felt. It was already quite an uncomfortable existence anyway. So yeah, it's a bit Peaky Blinders, to be honest.
That's been one thing about it though, isn't it? Like the practicalities of it in action are so I don't know, I don't want to say meaningless because it means something to all of us, the fact that this decision has come through. But in terms of how we go about our lives and our day to day, has it really changed? I mean, I think other people's perception of us and how they will police our bodies has changed. But for us and how we police ourselves, irrelevant.
Yeah.
That's the thing I think has been quite wild about it, is also how the media has been able to politicize it and create against women's safety being like the meaning of this. Like, this is why they're doing this, when it's not. It's like a control, because what you're now doing is now policing femininity or what it is to be a woman. How do you police that? Like, there's so much nuance, there's so much like lack of understanding of like people that are intersex, people that might look more masculine, might like identify more masculine. Like it just like who's standing at the door checking like what's going on, you know?
Exactly.
Like, is that what they want to do? Like, it's wild.
Exactly. The thing that pains me the most is like seeing all of the beautiful Black women that I have grown up around and also seen in the media and had the pleasure of knowing as my friends, like, and seeing and hearing how people refer to them and hearing how people refer to a woman who has a little bit more of a sculpted jaw, that, oh, she looks like a man. Oh, big feet. You know what that means? Like, those may have been like cute Will and Grace jokes, like, for a minute, but now it's like, this is actively happening. The transvestigation is going to happen when your aunt, who maybe is past a certain age or of a certain age, has a chin hair she's forgotten to pluck. What does that mean? You know, like all of these things. When your sister, who is actually just really athletically built and didn't get her boobs until is not going to get her boobs until she's 24 and is lean and tall, is going out to the club and she's not looking like all of the other girls. What does that mean? What does that mean for her moving in spaces with other women? How does that have other women relate to her? And therefore, and also then other men relate to her? Like, it's impossible to actually enforce. It's just something that's created or that exists to push us further into the shadows.
I think that's a really important point about like how this applies to different types of women too. And that racialized aspect of it is so like poignant and important, because even when you think about how sex has been defined historically through medicine and science, the perfect sex form has always been seen as explicitly white. And we see this with Black women in the Olympics that are constantly pulled out. And the case that that Caster Semenya had to go through in the Supreme Court and all of those decisions, it is always a certain type of body that is presented and picked out upon. And we also must be very aware of what those consequences are for different types of bodies. I think that's something that we should focus on as a community as well, moving forwards.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's like, it's scary though, because I think like when it comes down to that and like the policing of what that is, like, and the fact that they have been able to get away with it with this idea of women's safety, it's not protecting women. If anything, it's going to affect cisgender people as well, you know, like massively. Don't think people think about the repercussions of that. And also, like, if the laws were to go through, like trans men will be using.
Yeah, me go into the women's bathroom.
There we go. Hello. Yeah, so it's like, men are going to come in, and also, you know, what I actually find is just so ridiculous. The whole narrative was like, you know, a man might be able to walk into say that they identify as a woman and then assault a woman. They don't need to do that
in broad daylight all the time.
Yeah. Exactly that. But also now there's even an easier loophole because they can walk in and say I'm a trans man. You know, like if that's what they do, like it's just. To me, I'm like, they're just shooting themselves in the foot with it. And also, there was no evidence to suggest that there was even a threat in the first place.
Trans voices were allowed in the judgment.
So I think there is actually a trans QC, really high level of lawyer barrister, who's taken this to, I think it's the European Court of Human Rights, to say that there was not enough evidence. You can't do a judgment without hearing both sides. It's not fair.
How do you do that? Like, it's just, especially at the court of law.
Yeah. It's the production of knowledge in it.
Yeah.
It's just so reductive. And I know everybody is saying it, but it's a problem against like everybody that just isn't a straight white man. Like I think that's the funniest thing about it is that that's what I struggle to understand sometimes is how, like, for example, like the women who were cheering outside of the Supreme Court, like, babe, like how are you not, like, just because you're okay with where you are in life, how are you not seeing the rest of us, the rest of the world? Like how are you not seeing that, like, ultimately at one point they'll get you too? How do you feel safe in this? I don't understand how people, I don't know.
But also, I do think there's something to be said about like those people that were standing popping champagne.
They were a very specific demographic of
Exactly. And I feel like how does this affect your life? How does it affect your daily life? I think it's like it's a punching down and just completely pulling up any kind of progression of rights for everyone. Because like you said, if it happens to you, it can happen to everyone, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what people need to be afraid of. And that's what people need to think about, you know? And I think like there's a lot of like not thinking for themselves. And I think like social media can be a bit of a problem for that. Like we all are fed a certain algorithm, and whether that's great or not, we can be in an echo chamber, and then the other people on the other side are in an echo chamber, and they're being fed different things. And it's just social media, I feel like, has a lot to answer for in all of this, you know?
I feel as though specifically when everything was coming out, it has felt over the past 2 weeks specifically, it's felt very overwhelming, as you all have seen. Like, I feel like it's like everyone's stories at the minute is. But then you do forget, don't you, that, you know, you are in a space. I didn't even know that ruling was going to take place. And then when it happened, I was like, oh, gag it. Like, it's actually happened. Whereas it's like...
on the protest.
yeah. Like, oh, my rights are going again. But I think it's quite entertaining because there's clearly another echo chamber, like you said, of like these like straight white women who are like going to the Supreme Court like, oh, well, Carol's putting on her story. So then they're putting on their story. And it's like, I think to clock a privilege of my own, I think that I forget that I'm in a like safe bubble of like even being in London and being like, you know, surrounded by an amazing trans community. And you almost forget that like people are outside of that. And I think that's the hardest bit.
Most of these people have never met a trans person.
That's the issue.
Like, have you met a trans person? Do you know a trans person? If you do, check in with them, firstly. And secondly, like, if you don't, go to meet a trans person. Like, it's the idea that you have, or the idea that's been spun is very rooted in what was happening in the 70s with gay men, you know, like the idea of what that was to be gay. And like, it's the same fucking spin of the book, you know, and it's just worse this time because it's like so public and social media is there. And it's just like, it feels really dark.
I mean, yeah, it's super dark. And when I think about it, I just, okay, go with me on this. I feel like this whole attitude towards seeking to control something as opposed to understanding something is a symptom of the education system in colonialist, like, societies, right? Like, you have these people, this 1% of your population who exist. And rather than being like, I wonder, there's so few of them. Maybe there's something that we could do just to like have some space for them. Because, you know, I, as James from Sunderland,
James from Sunderland.
Thank you. Yes. I came here and I didn't feel like I was a part of the city and I had to learn and find my way, right? But there's no seeking to understand. There's no seeking to create space because ultimately white men, especially, are coddled, are told that their feelings are only valuable if they are destroying, conquering, or dominating something. And so everything that happens everything that seems to happen in legislature and within culture or society to minority groups is just another symptom, of that kind of mentality. We cannot understand, therefore we must control. I think that mothers like need to do more. And I'm not saying, when I say mothers, actually that's so mean because it's not only on women, it's on all of us. We all have to have this conversation. We all have to have the conversation about the fact that like we're all people, right? We all come from different places. We all exist in different ways. And the science that we're taught in school is also bullshit that asks us to perpetuate the idea of a binary that doesn't exist because as a woman, you're going to have all sorts of chromosomes and same as a man. Most people don't even know what the hell a chromosome is.
I'm saying this.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm saying this.
So I just feel like there's so many more important things that we could be spending our time on. And like the most important thing that we could be spending our time on is actually understanding, including voices in the conversation. The fact that there were no trans voices included in that ruling is absolutely wild to me. Like, is everyone okay?
It's wrong. Like, it should never have been passed the way it was. You know, it was funded by you know who.
Yeah,
literally, you know who. Like, and it was, and it's scary that that's even a thing. Like, if you've got money, you can change and fuck up and ruin people's lives so easily.
I think it's really interesting what you were saying about that control that especially white men have, because I think what's really interesting about, so there's a distinction between how gay people were treated in the 1970s, 80s and how trans people are treated now. And I think, yes, there was a hideous amount of homophobia, and there were lots of medical studies trying to locate the gay gene and things like that to try and find a cause for why you are gay. And once that was abandoned, I feel like, well, not once that was abandoned, but in abandoning that, there was a lot of progress. Because I feel like the opposition to transness almost has the legitimacy of that unrepresentative science, right? They're like, I know what biology is, and I'm so stable and rigid in that because it's been represented for so many hundreds of years with no variation, even though we all know about that variation. But that is also a symptom of colonialism, like you said. I mean, that's where the gender binary comes from. It was an erasure of language from indigenous communities so that they couldn't experience that. And so there wasn't language for that. So I think we're still feeling the repercussions of that. But I think, seeing how that will continue to play out in medicine will be super interesting over the next few years.
Isn't it funny that in a world in which we are constantly asked to update apps and update things, we can't update the educational system, we can't update the political system. Well, exactly. Knowledge is power.
We're seeing so much information, misinformation as well. People believe things straight away, and they don't go further than even a headline most of the times, and that's really scary. And like when you're not challenged on that, and then there's people saying things like women's safety. We all believe that women's safety is so imperative, but like women's safety includes trans women, it includes everyone. Like it's not the false narrative that's been spun is really, really scary. And I think like what you said is so true. And I think it just worries me with the younger generation and the Andrew Tate of it all. Like when it comes to the understanding that the men at the top, the white straight man, is now being like seen as less than, and everyone's diversity has come forward and diversity is pushing through, and you are now being left out of the conversation. I mean, I'm sorry, even if you were, but like you're not. Like it's crazy. It doesn't exist. So it just feels scary. Like it feels worrying. But I think we've just got to keep fighting. Like you said, when in the 70s and 80s, that changed. And I feel like we just got to keep being that change, be on the right side of history.
There are people doing that work. I included. We haven't been doing this research. We'll get it out one day.
How is that going? How is it like the world of academia?
There's a piece of string. It's good. I feel like I am a social scientist that critiques medicine from the perspective of human photography, right? So a lot of what I experience as a trans person in society is also reflective of how I feel as a social scientist in medicine, because fundamentally I come from a perspective that is seen as less legitimate than medicine and science, because it's not so factual, that you can't observe it. And so when I critique medicine, people don't like that. So I'm looking forward to a very controversial career. But the big aim of it is to try and change the undergraduate medical curriculum that students are being taught, because the hours that students get on LGBT health, I mean, previous research is like 1 or 2 hours in 6 years. And within that, trans health is like one slide on a slideshow. It's not enough. So that's my aim. We're going to try and get people to actually have some medical skills. That would be good. Respecting pronouns is a cute start, but let's stop rainbow lanyarding and actually have some skills. Yeah.
So this is like a question for everyone, really. Do you remember the first time that your identity was challenged by the system?
Yeah. Well, so when I changed my name, I think I must have been 16, I think 15, 16. Ever since I changed my name, I don't know what's happened. I've got my passport changed, I've had my ID changed, everything like that. But for some reason, I can't join the electoral register. And it's been that way. I'm 26 now. And I've moved several times. I've always tried to reapply. I've been to town council halls with all of the documents, and they just say I don't exist. So, I mean, it doesn't happen to all trans people. It's happened to a couple that I know over the years, but seems to be something that can't be remedied. So I don't know what to do. That's insanity. It also really fucks my credit score. I need to get a mortgage. Yeah. So annoying.
Is there a way to rectify that? Or is it literally just is what it is?
I think I just have to wait for the right council to respect my identity, I guess. Same as always. But yeah, I mean, that's a biggie for me. I feel like I should be voting.
Well, you exist.
Yeah, like you are like here, you valid everything. Like it's just crazy.
I forget that I actually have basic human rights as a trans person. Yeah, my bad. Thanks for the reminder.
First time my identity was challenged. I don't think I can remember the first time because I feel like it's challenged like every week.
Yeah.
Like I remember there was maybe 3 years from like 2022 to 2025 where like every day it was full femme fantasy. I was a Barbie doll, 52-inch long braids,
love.
like everything. And I remember feeling like I needed to pee. And I was at an event and I was like, oh my God, I don't know where to go. Because if I go into the women's, I could make a woman feel uncomfortable. If I go into the men's, I know I'm going to feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went into the women's. And this woman just goes, ugh, why is he in here? And I was like, doesn't help that it was a gay bar in Soho, but I won't name it. But
Name him.
but yeah, I remember that. And then right after that, I remember going to the bar and a man, wanted to speak to me and then asked me my name. And I told him my name was Darkwah and he didn't believe me. He thought that it was a fake name. It was giving a fake name. And so in a double whammy of whiteness and, I don't know, bewilderment, I was just like, how am I supposed to move through all of these? So I just stopped. I just stopped actually wanting to be out. And when I was out, I would also just either like try and dissociate as quickly as possible. In other words, getting absolutely wasted.
Yeah.
Or I'd just be in a mood and I'd be in a mood for days after because it's just, I don't know how to exist in spaces because I can't freely do that. If we go somewhere and there's only a men's and a women's, like I'm not going to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
If I'm traveling, I don't use the bathroom in airports at all. I will wait until we get on the plane.
Yeah.
And then I use the bathroom. Like, yeah, I don't know. Sorry, complete tangent. But
It's
yeah,
hard as well when you want to be a hydrated galley.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
Everyone live young, babe.
But yeah, no, I feel like my identity is challenged all the time. And it kind of makes me feel like I have to fight every day. Like, do you feel like you have to like be ready to fight?
All the time. If anything, more now. Kind of like I don't really have a clear-cut answer for your question, similarly. However, it is at the minute, like I'm also ready to fight. Like I also like start then. Like, come on, let's do it. Hit me, go. But I feel like specifically, I moved to London 7 years ago and I've always been presenting feminine. If anything, I present the least feminine now because I'm quite comfortable in my femininity. However, when I first moved to London, no one cared. Like 7 years ago, no one cared. I'd wear the most eccentric outfits up until like 3 years ago. And then things just changed. And it's just getting worse. And I feel like there was this one time in Soho and I was like similar, like super femme. And I was like walking back and I mean, for me, I'm just kind of like walking down alleyways at night. I'm like, I'll do it. Like, I'll survive. Like, I'm just like, fine. God's got me. The universe. But I was walking down this alleyway and this man was like asking for my number, whatever. I was like, yo, like, it's not going to happen. Like, I'm all right. And then he was like asking, are you trans? And then it's like, oh, here we go. It's about to get like real booky. And then in the end, like I'm running away, run into some couple. The couple are like, we don't want to help you because they're just like tourists. So I like bolting. Anyway, run to Waterloo Bridge. I'm fine. But I think it is that type of like harassment has increased so much. Like, wasn't it a statistic like last year that there's been like a huge increase in trans porn? Was that came out last year? And I found that so funny that all of our rights being revoked. And yet, you know, clearly there's a desirability.
I believe it was like
to
number
us.
three. It was like number 3, the most popular category.
Which is wild because like you do go out and you do, I mean, it happens all the time. I went out and I was outside my friend's apartment the other day. Like I was like high femme, high heels, like whatever. And it again, it's just like, men just appear. And then they're just like there, just bothering me. I'm like, babe. And also you don't want to like get clocked because I'll just talk in my like, I've never wanted to change my voice. But then I'm like, here, like, hey, like, you know, I'm trying not to say anything, kind of looking down, kind of like, you know, trying to do everything just to survive, really, and just to know that you can get out of this situation. Because also at the same time, like the place in Soho, it's like they're first interested in you because you're trans, and then you explain that you don't want them, and then they're disgusted at the fact that you're trans. And it's this changing notion that is essentially, I think, on the rise as well.
It's like, do you have equality?
So I will destroy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hello.
Why do you think the idea of womanhood causes so much cultural tension?
I think because it's always been policed by other people. And I think it's losing its police power, so to speak, specifically from men. And so they want to enforce these categories again and enforce these rules to, like you say, control. I feel if anything, you know, like on our echo chambers, on TikTok, you know, like I just have like girlies being like standing up, like being like, we don't need men, you know, like we're getting on and we're stepping away from the fact like, people don't want kids, they don't want like to get married, like they're realizing that actually they're being like controlled, gaslit, whatever. I believe that why womanhood is being policed more than ever at the minute is because it's people are realizing that womanhood is whatever you want it to be. And there's always been like the freedom of choosing what you want. And I feel like because that is now not in the men's control and like the straight white man's power, they want to police it even more because they're ultimately scared that how they've been doing it, because they know it's wrong, is failing them.
I think it comes down to the body and the maintenance of trying to have hegemony and cisnormativity. I think if we look at TERFs and the way that their feminism operates, they want to tie the idea of womanhood to what they assume to be a female body and tie it to the ovaries and the uterus and that reproductive capacity, which has always been so problematic. And we've seen this especially in America, you know, with the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the definitions of womanhood that are going on over there and how it's always trying to be this maintenance of binary sex. I think that really is what it comes down to if you dig deep enough. It's trying to maintain that cultural category as something that is stable rather than seeing it as something that is socially constructed and something that can be fluid and changeable and all these glorious things that we know in reality. Yeah.
I think also maintaining a binary aids like capitalism. And I mean, obviously we all know that. Do you know what I mean? Like, but it's very much okay. If this is a woman's purpose and this is what makes a woman, then we'll always have a workforce. That workforce, as we have more numbers, we can drive like how much we pay them down. We can drive down their aspirations and goals, limit the amount of people that actually break through whatever parapet or glass ceiling and still maintain this white man top coat to everything. And I think the idea that people exist outside of the binary actually is also equal to the idea that anybody can be anything and anyone can do anything. And that is the biggest threat to power that has been stolen. Because when power is stolen, it's also because those who it was stolen from didn't realize the value of their individual power. And transness, the trans experience, is realizing your value. It's actualizing yourself. It's being like, you know what? I'm here and this is not who I feel I am. I'm going to fucking build it. And you know, if you take the attitude that trans people, when they're actualizing themselves, that have into business, it creates such a diverse pool for businesses. You take it into podcasting, you got a million different ones. Take it into the idea of TV production, and you go beyond the idea that even reality TV has to be something that is combative. It could be completely restorative, recharging, enlightening, and entertaining. You know, you break the idea that things have to be only this way or this way. You break the idea that this villain is just a villain. This is actually a being that is complex. You completely shatter the reality that they hold on to so dearly because it is the only way in which they can actually find value within themselves, because they never thought to even try and know themselves, to ask the question that trans people are asking in the first place. So let me tell you, James from fucking Sunderland, ask yourself in the mirror, what the fuck do I want from life? Not what I think my dad wants, not what I think the city wants, not what I think the country wants. And when you can honestly answer that question for yourself, James from Sunderland, you can then talk to trans people about the way in which they exist, but only to learn. Thank you.
We're going to add a mic drop here.
Hey with that.
I feel like James from Sunderland is going to become a thing.
I don't even know where Sunderland is.
Near Newcastle.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I love Newcastle.
Yeah. No, yeah, James. We'll see you soon. So this is obviously a broad one, I guess, but I think like there's positivity here as well. It's important to highlight that as well. But so for anyone in the community that is like feeling scared right now, what would you say to them?
I've never seen this much support from cis allies. I think we finally hit that point, and I've been having a lot of conversations with trans friends recently, and especially trans friends that sort of have tumultuous relationships with their parents, with their families and things like that. And this has sort of been the point where even their parents have turned around and said, okay, no, this is a really big deal. And actually I see you now and we need to get involved with this and I actually need to read something. So on that hand, I mean, when I showed up to that protest, I was not expecting that many people. And that felt like right. I was really, really surprised. And I felt that as soon as I got off the tube and looked around and went, oh shit, okay, this is a big one. And so I think that there's more information out there than ever. I think more people are engaging with it than ever. It's just whether or not they carry that into their personal lives to change their attitudes is the thing. Like I said earlier, it's all rainbow lanyarding until it's not, you know?
Yeah.
So I think there's some people that are getting there now. They're like, I need to do the reading actively.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. It's like you can share an Instagram reel and like an Instagram reel. Like I would be lying if I said within the past 2 weeks, like my engagement hasn't gone up like by so much.
My first TikTok.
Yeah. But congrats, mate. But I do think it's definitely gone up. So people are like resharing, reacting more. However, it's whether, you know, somebody's going to go down to the pub with their straight friends and then call out Max for saying something transphobic. You know, it's like that is the real question. It's whether you bring it into real life or you stop transphobia on the train or such and so forth. Well, one thing I will say is I think it has definitely brought the community closer. Like I feel much more close to like the trans community, even in like speaking, even just like checking in. And also as well, like we've all been ready for this, low key. And I feel like I've not laughed so much with trans people in my life because it's like, well, actually, we best just laugh at it, babe. You know what I mean? Because really, what else is there, you know? So it's been an awful time. However, I do think it has been like an enlightening time for the love of the community that we have for each other, you know? But it'd been nice to figure out love in a different circumstance. Yeah, rather than like a dire.
How do you think storytelling, whether it's through music or fashion or academia, how can that help shift public's perceptions?
I mean, literally just your presentation is also the media, right? Like just going out every day. And I think that in the moments that you do feel bold, in the moments that you do feel empowered, because it's not every day.
It's not every day.
Listen, it's not.
Sure.
You don't need to be popping pussy on a handstand every single day. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes, sometimes chill, sometimes like soft life, but get up and like whatever you feel that you have the volition to say. Share it with a friend first in a voice note, like, or in a WhatsApp message. And then if you want to go further and share it even more, then go ahead. I have so many screenshots of like ramblings that I've had with like my friends in WhatsApp conversations that I'll like save for later because I'm like, damn, we're speaking some real wisdom here. And I think that we have to be unashamed and unafraid of our individuality within the collective of our community. Sharing our experiences, I think, is really, truly wonderful. I love seeing you post your content.
Thanks, that's really nice.
Yeah, I genuinely like love it. And it's not about educational content. It's actually just like you existing. Like, and I went through your Instagram the other day and I was just like, because again, it's just like, it's really wonderful to just see other people existing and getting on with things, fucking eating a burger and having like a good time. Like trans stories are not as depressing as the media will have you believe, you know, like we have laughs.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of the different sides of the tracks, you might say, and therefore can laugh at all of the stupid things that also happen. And I think that whenever anyone has the volition to, when you feel empowered or like particularly embodied, just like sharing something with someone somewhere, share some power, have a nice conversation, like, and be unapologetically you.
Yeah.
Fucking get up. And if you want to live your ugly Betty fantasy, live your ugly Betty fantasy for a day. Like go out, like show yourself. Because when you show yourself and you show yourself being happy and showing yourself, other people can only feel happiness for you. Like compersion is my favorite thing to talk about. And I love experiencing compersion with other people. I love seeing people win big. Like I don't care if it doesn't even influence me. Like just go out and be fucking trans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go out and be fucking trans. And for the allies out there, go out and be allies and be proud allies.
100%.
Go down to fucking Queer Britain and get yourself a Trans History Week badge and like pop it on and like walk proudly and do that. Because if we have assholes out here purporting their like right-wing views proudly, despite the fact that it's absolute idiocy, why the fuck should you not be proud and loud about the fact that you are on the right side of history?
Goes straight into what I was going to say. What can allies do right now, you know, on the ground? Like, because I mean, like you said, stand up, but like not next week, not tomorrow. Like, what can I do right now? Go to Queer Britain and get
literally go to Queer Britain. Yeah, so, I mean,
today.
But like, don't be afraid to do what you know is morally right.
Exactly. I think That's actually a really good one. Don't be afraid to do what is morally right. Because it's like, why are we... Do you know cringe culture?
Yeah.
Yes.
Segue, but follow me. Follow with me. Cringe culture.
My gay images.
This whole
cringe
idea
culture.
is even just like, oh, she's really enjoying her look. Do you know what I mean? Like, why?
Yes.
And that goes right the way over to, they're really into that thing that they support now. Like, let people be, girl. Like, you collect comic books, you collect stamps, you're collecting pennies from the Victorian times. Like, just allow people to be. Stop. We're constantly looking at other things rather than looking at ourselves. And if we actually took a second to look at ourselves, like I advised James from Sunderland to do earlier, we would actually understand that, like, by inhibiting other people's existences, we stop ourselves from ever experiencing or understanding the other possibilities of the ways in which we could exist or grow.
100%. But I do think it is that thing. It's just like, it is shame that comes with it. And there's a part of shame. And I think there's a part of like shame specifically of straight people that they wonder what I think especially straight men, like I've literally seen it growing up, like to be involved and to know gay people and to stand next to a gay person or a trans person or a non-binary person or whatever the fuck. I think there's a bunch of shame that somebody else would. I mean, I've literally been with guys who, when they told their family about me, were crying that their parents like, you're with a trans person, that's fine. I was like, babe, like, it's kind for me, Argentina. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, cries. But like, I think it's such an interesting thing that like shame holds over specifically men. And I think, like you said, to question yourself and to know oneself, I think would move the world along very much. But I think, relating that back to your question, I think it's just being unshamingly loving to other people and to yourself, so you're able to do that and move forward with everybody together.
Yeah, I think what you're saying like almost loops right back to what we were talking about with the porn categories, right? How people only want to consume transness, but specifically trans femininity or effeminacy in any regard. If you are a straight cis man, when it's suitable for them, they want to consume it in a safe space that is private, that is not seen. And I think, yes, okay, we can categorize cis white men like that, but we also need to say that allies need to step out and do that too and consume transness as a whole, not just as individual people that you know, but as, I don't want to say a lifestyle, because I know everyone always says something trans, such an interesting lifestyle. But you know what I mean? Like there's a difference between like being gay and living queer. Right. And there's the same thing with trans. There's a difference between being trans and transitioning and living trans, right? And seeing that transformative capacity, like you were saying, in every aspect of our lives. And I think allies need to really sit with that and think, what are the structures that I'm in? And how do I perpetuate certain things like you were saying? And then how do I address that? And that can only really be done by reading other perspectives that question your own. And I think that's always the key. We're sort of losing that criticality in this era of anti-intellectualism and AI.
Critical thinking is dying.
Totally, yeah.
We'll sit here for an hour.
Babe. Like the chat GPT of it all.
The younger gen as well, like they don't do anything, like they do all their work on ChatGPT. And I'm like, if you're not being challenged at the age of 14.
And who is creating those algorithms? I say this to people, like trans creators are like, oh my God, my algorithm's doing so bad. I'm like, it's not designed for us. Yeah. It was never designed to platform us. And it's the same with ChatGPT. You're never going to get something enriched about us because it just wasn't like,
Yeah, it's scary. And everyone needs to be aware of that. And I think maybe we just need to shut our phones down. We need to get off the social media, you know, like that's the way to reconnect because the algorithms are pushing us further apart. And I think human experiences need human connection and we're lacking that so much. The clubs are shutting, like there's so much that's going on as well that is creating us the vision to do that. And I just think like, you know, done are the days of like Facebook statuses and Instagram posts that aren't feeding our soul.
Honestly, reopen the community centres.
Yes.
Yes. I would love a little pottery class in the community centre on a Sunday.
Let's do it. We're going to do this soon.
Yes.
James from Sunderland, you're invited.
Or you can fund this.
Yes. Give the dolls your money.
And finally, this is the last question. And it's been amazing. So thank you so much for coming on. Your insight is incredible. I can't wait for people to hear this. You know, like, so I want to end it on joy. What is keeping you laughing lately? What is keeping you grounded? What are you giving joy about?
My community. I've been around so many trans people in the last like month or so. I mean, I'm always around trans people anyway, you know, living the life. But especially now, I feel like that, like I said about the protest, it was just nice to see so many groups of people there. And I felt like I was really radiating trans joy that day. And I continue to do so, you know. It's just one of them ones like you were saying. I mean, you just have to laugh through it. It's always going to be shit. We are well aware that it is shit and it might get shitter. But you just got to do what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? You just got to hang out with your people and try and build yourself up with people who respect you and value you and believe the same things that you do. I think that's all I'm trying to think about right now.
Yeah.
And read some books.
Yeah.
Read some books and touch some grass. What is bringing me joy right now? I'm gonna go inwards because I've been telling everybody to go inwards. What is bringing me joy right now? What is bringing me joy right now is learning more about myself. I have taken this opportunity of everyone else interrogating what everyone else exists like to actually interrogate what I exist like. Like, look at ideas and values that I previously held. And I'm basically doing a system update. I'm just seeing like what serves me, what actually chimes with the person that I say I am and the person that I want to be. Because sometimes we speak things that aren't necessarily in alignment with the things that we're doing. So I'm trying to get more in alignment. And it's a really exhausting process, but it brings me joy because every single day I can look at the day and see that I've done my absolute best. I've pushed myself a little bit harder and I've tried something new. And, you know, if change is the only constant in life, then if you're not changing, you're not living.
Sweet.
And so I'm trying to see where some changes can be made and doing that. And that's bringing me joy.
I think just like loving more. But I think, especially in these dire moments, I think even in like personal, when you're really low, I always say to people like strip it back. I literally like getting an oat flat white in the morning brings me so much joy. Put a sugar in it as well as a little treat. And
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Put the sugar in.
Yeah, do you know what? Put the sugar in and have a cigarette. Do you know what I mean? Like get
Not
into
a vape,
smoking.
not a vape.
Yeah, not a vape. Yeah, no. So nicotine, that's making me happy.
Protect my
No,
brand.
yeah, but it's just like the simple things, especially, you know, turning off your phone, you know, going for a walk, reaching out to people, telling people you love them. I think that is like the main thing for me is like, tell someone you love them like now. Like even as you leave, like to all you lot, love you lot. Like it's like, you know, you're going to leave this space and it's like, I don't know when I'll next see you all again, you know, and like hopefully soon. But it is that thing where it's just like remind people you love them because they'll most likely remind you that they love you back in however way that they do. And just like love more.
Radical love, joy, acceptance. It's
Exactly.
been amazing. Where can everyone find you?
Instagram. Yeah, Instagram at Samuel Moir-Smith. Soon to be Dr. Samuel Moir-Smith.
Oh, you better get it, doctor.
Doctor.
Oh, yes. You can find me on Instagram at House of Darkwah. That's HAUSOFDARKWAH. And that handle is like on every other platform, including Mixcloud, because she DJs.
Hey. And then I'm So I Think on
Instagram and TikTok and also Spotify as well.
might as well plug the
Watch
music.
Sue's TikTok.
Totally.
Funny as hell.
Oh,
I will definitely put everyone's information down. But thank you so much for joining me. This has been amazing. Love you all. Let's keep fucking fighting the good fight.
exactly.
Period.
Protect the dolls.
Protect the dolls at all costs.